Welcome to Flip the Switch podcast. Today we have Coach Derek Ward on the show. Coach Derek is a business coach for gym owners and online coaches. He has had a pivotal turn in his life a couple of years ago, and we're here to help him share his story. He is now leading many people through a faith-based coaching program, and it's quite unique. So we brought him on today to highlight not only his past and where he came from, but what that moment was in his life where he flipped the switch and he decided to go all in on himself, and how that's worked and implemented into his business and his life, and how his clients are most importantly benefiting from that. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Thank you, Coach Dane. I'm super pumped to be here, man. And I have to say myself, when I came across your page, you're doing some awesome stuff too, man, to really motivate and lead and inspire these men. As you know, men nowadays, we need more leadership. We need more leaders of men. And I'm just super pumped to be connected to you, man, and excited to be here as well. I appreciate you, and I thank you, man.
Yeah, man, of course. And I appreciate that so much. I think one of the things the audience should know is we look for people that are unique, right? People that didn't step in to something that they inherited, but they had to create. They had to see a vision. That vision required lots of belief. Sometimes that vision is controversial, and we have to make a decision to go all in on that. And if you look at Derek's background, you will see, right, he's made a decision to put his faith first and lead from the front, and that's really going to divide a lot of people, which is great, right? I believe in niches. Niches, we shouldn't be for everybody, right? We have our own flavor and our own style, and that should be niched in, and I love that Derek did that. So when I saw his page and what he was doing, I absolutely was like, we got to get this guy on the show and share the story. So most importantly, man, why don't you bring us back to who you are, what you do, and kind of bring us into how you got here.
Yeah, man. I mean, it hasn't always been like that. I have a very unique story and upbringing. I come from the outside looking in, a pretty stable situation with family, but being on the inside, I would say it was nothing of the sort. I grew up with my father. My parents divorced when I was super young. Me and my older brother lived in the house with my father, and then our stepmother, who we just call mother now. And growing up, we always grew up with like the principles and going to church, and our grandmother was like the matriarch of the family, keeping everybody together. But as a family and a unit, we weren't really practicing, right? We kind of like modeled ourselves as this like, oh, perfect family, right? My brother went to Duke University on a full scholarship, right? All-American athlete. Wow. I'm over here. I'm captain of teams, successful athletically, go to college, play football. My younger brother and younger sister, they go to college. My younger brother commits to University of Virginia on a full scholarship, and my dad being a blue collar worker and having kids when he was 17 years old. My mother was 14 years old when they had my brother, right? Wow. So like just the story of them being able to have kids so young and then us turn out the way we did, you would think from the outside looking in, wow, they have it all together. Wow, America's success story, right?
Yeah.
But when you go in the four walls of the home, I mean, a lot of strife, a lot of individuality, a lot of, fighting and, generational curses and things that have been successful at times, that still try to manifest itself in breaking up our family.
Yep.
But growing up as a teenager and through college, I got lost a lot of the way. I got lost a lot of the times. I was always very focused on becoming the best version of myself. But it was always rooted in an acceptance. It was always rooted in looking a certain way so others would accept me. Because growing up in the home, I didn't feel accepted, right? Wow. And so, like, people will see the things that I do now, but a lot of the purpose that I'm doing now is rooted in the pain from growing up. A lot of the things and the mission that I'm on is rooted in a lot of the darkness that I've come through. And, growing up in that home has taught me a lot of what I don't want to do with a family, right? I'm married. My wife and I have been together about 11 years now. We've been married going on 5 years. We'll do 5 years this year. Nice. That's a whole nother, we can talk all about that. That's a whole nother conversation of how we've come to be and how we are. We have two young boys, 2.5 and 4 months old. And, we have to break the generational curses over our family too. We have to change the
100%.
the tree for our family, for our sons. I have to model for my sons a different way. I have to model for my sons what not to do, what to do, and also root it when they're older in where it comes from. And so the work that I do now is to, much like yourself, Coach Dan, right, is to lead people, more specifically men, towards that purpose and that calling that God has over their life. Because I strongly believe that everybody was created for a purpose. Everybody was created with a unique, predestined calling. But we let the strife of the world, we let the failures that we overcome, that we let the societal pressures cloud us, cloud our judgment, cloud where we're going, who we are, what we're doing. And that makes a lot of people lost. And that forms and shapes a lot of people's identities. And I believe right now we're undergoing an identity crisis, right? The devil, the society, the government, the educational system is attacking our identity and who we are. And when you read the Bible, when you read the word, and this is an ongoing struggle for me and a lot of people, the main thing that it talks about is our identity in Christ, our identity in God, the God the Father. Our identity is in him. And when you align with that, you have ultimate power, ultimate potential. Ultimate calling, ultimate alignment. You can manifest. You can operate at a very high frequency. But when you're not aligned and when you attack identity, you're controlled. Right? You do what others say to do. You think how others say you should think. And you can't operate at the highest level, which why would anybody want? Why would anybody who's in any position of power want you to operate at the highest frequency? So that's a little bit of what I do. And, you know, we can unpack all of that, but a lot of the journey that I'm on and the things that you see have come from a lot of the pain and darkness of growing up, and then college. It's a whole nother ball game, man.
Oh yeah, college is there. Let's go back, man. So you were one of how many kids?
One of 4. So my older brother and I, same father, same mother.
Okay.
Right, but then I have a younger brother and sister. Same dad, different mother. They're twins. And then I have another sister, same mom, different dad. And they live in different states and stuff. So like a lot of, I don't even know what you'd call it. Just a mess really.
But so that's where you felt a little lost, right? Or unheard or unseen.
Exactly.
And so would you say your house was more religious, like just doing it for the practice versus kind of having a deep relationship with Christ?
I don't know what it was, man. You know, it was like my father tried and he did try his best, but he's got his own issues, right?
Yeah.
And our grandparents, my grandmother specifically, a lot of our root in faith and just family principles, right? Comes from her being the matriarch of our family, right? It really comes from her. And, you know, out of anybody in my family, both on my side and my wife's side, the only people that successfully did marriage and stayed together was my grandparents. They've been married, I think, 53 years now.
Wow.
And out of everybody else in my family, you know, we're talking cousins, we're talking uncles, we're talking aunts, we're talking everybody else. Divorced, right, multiple times. Like it's a curse. It's a generational curse. So that, you know, has been like a cloud, because just going on the topic of marriage real quick, right? Like when you're married, that's a covenant, right? So when you're married and it's a covenant with God, the devil wants to do everything he can to destroy that. The enemy wants to do everything he can to destroy that. Why? So why though? Because people don't go through like the why. People talk about, you know, the divorce rate is 50%. People talk about, you know, the government wants to break up families and all this type of stuff. Why? Marriage is one of the only things that we can do as humans on earth in covenant with God that will shape and mold us into being the creations that he wanted us to be. See, that's the point of marriage. The point of marriage is to make you holy, is to help you be holy, not happy, not fulfilled, not, having fun. It's to make you holy. Well, that's a very painful, hard process. And my wife and I have been through hell and back multiple times. I mean, we're in marital counseling right now, because of that. But I strongly believe that if you can overcome that, and also if you can become an entrepreneur, if you can launch something, if you can grow something, with those two things, you're unstoppable. Yeah.
Man, there's a lot there. And I want to come back to that because, so you have, I agree with a lot of everything you're saying, right? Like, I think it was definitely in my marriage, as soon as my wife came together and we made that bond, man, it was like spiritual attack after spiritual attack after spiritual attack. And it was like almost unbelievable to where it was like, what's going on, right? And then we stepped more into coming together with Christ. She was more religious. I had been saved, right? So we had a little bit different relationship, but we both had, you know, good intentions. But as soon as we kind of brought that marriage, man, it was just like that. It was like those attacks started coming, and it was up to us to go like, okay, we got to step outside and recognize this because it's so important. And you realize how important the marriage was because it gets attacked because of the importance of it. So it sounds like from the upbringing it leads to college. College is a little bit of a kind of a windy road for you.
Oh yeah.
What brings you to Christ? Like, what's the moment to where you recognize I need to get centered? Because it sounds like a lot of what you did too, Derek, was like the things you saw, you knew, okay, I don't want to do it that way.
Oh,
you know, you lived off of contrast.
It was a lot of like, when I look back now, God has always been very active in my life. Mm-hmm. But when I was a teenager, you know, when I'm 16, 17, 18 years old, the only thing I'm thinking and seeing is like, I got to get out of this house. I need to go away. Like, I just felt the pressure and the power of like my dad, just like he was very militant, very like, you do this or else, like you do this because I said so. Yeah. And so operating from that level, and the reason why I'm talking about earthly fathers, because how our earthly fathers raised us will form the perspective of how our godly father is to us. Right? And so when I was growing up, that authority, that feeling like I need to answer somebody, I resented that. Yeah. So when I'm growing up 16, 17, 18 years old, the only thing I wanted to do was get out of the house, go to college, and then like actually have a life, you know, because in high school, I was grinding for football, man. I mean, I'm like no friends, no real girlfriends, like no party, no drinking, no smoking, none of that high school, like what typically people do, man. I'm like grinding 7 days a week, 2 days. Like all I'm doing is in the gym, out the gym, like work out more. That's all I did, right? Because I wanted to play college football so badly, and I wanted to get out of the house and make my dream come true. Yeah. Right. So
committed.
So as I'm growing up, though, but like again, a lot of that was rooted in pain. But as I'm growing up, man, like we were in church, like I went to youth group, like I tried to read the Bible, but it never stuck because it was always like forced. It was always like, do this, like read your Bible. We're going to church. Yeah. But then actually living it out wasn't modeled, right? If anything, it was like Sunday we went to church, we did the whole deal. We ate dinner as a family, but then Monday through Saturday, it was like the complete opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So the example wasn't set out for me, and I resented the relationship with my father. Right? Yep. So I fell out of it. Like I wasn't in it. I wasn't, because people will talk about religion, right? People will talk about, you know, I don't want to be religious. Are you Catholic? Are you Christian? Are you this? Are you that? Are you that? Whatever, right? Yeah, if you read the word in the Bible, if you really understand and work to understand what the word is talking about, it's not religion. It's not religious practices. It's not a cadence of you need to read the Bible. You got to go to church. You got to dress this way. You got to talk with this way. You got to do it. It's none of that. It's accepting him as Lord and Savior and building a relationship with him. Building a relationship. See, it's a relationship. That's why it's called God the Father and Jesus the Son, is because it's a relationship. So I didn't understand that growing up. I didn't see it. But whenever I came across adversity, there was always that pull and that tug to my father, to my godly father. And so when I was 18, Dane, right? And this was like the first real glimpse, and when I really like started to come to God, right? Is, you know, I'm training my butt off, man, all summer. I mean, you're talking sacrifice after sacrifice, like saying no to everything, any type of social life. And I'm going to football camps after football camps. I went to Georgetown, Syracuse, Columbia, Lafayette, Boston College. I mean, like we're traveling like 3-4 days a week all summer. I'm sleeping in the back of my dad's Expedition as he's driving all up and down the East Coast. And so I'm doing all this work. I'm in the best shape of my life, man. I'm getting recruited by a bunch of schools. Like I go into my senior year, right? And I wasn't voted captain. Like my team hated me because I was like that hard-o, right? Oh, but yeah. but I go in, I get captain anyway. Yeah. And I'm pushing everybody's tail because that's how I operate. I don't care if you like me. My job isn't to make you like me. My job is to help you. It's how I coach now. I tell clients now, you sign up for my program, it's not for you to like me. It's for you to get results. That's what I'm going to do, and that's how I'm going to coach you. So anyway, so I did all that leading up, right? And so I go into my senior year, and my league and conference that we played football in Eastern Connecticut, it was terrible. Like it was small town, like the team sucked. So I'm like, I'm about to tear it up this year, man. I'm in sick shape. Like I'm about to go crazy. I played quarterback and running. I played pretty much every like skill position. And so I go in, man, and I'm like 190, rock solid, fast, physical. Like, I'm like feeling amazing, right? And then 2 weeks into the season, I snapped my ankle.
Oh,
2 weeks into it was 2 weeks into practice, man. First week of pads, I snapped my ankle. I break it, clean break. And I go get the X-rays and stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, you're out for like 10, 12 weeks." I'm like, "Okay, there's my season."
There's the whole season, yeah.
And so, like, the immediate thing that happened when I got that confirmation, one, I just started bawling my eyes out. Right, my dad started crying because he's like, "Oh my gosh, like, what are we gonna do?" And the first thing I said to him, and it was crazy, the first thing I came to my mind was, "Dad, call Pastor Dominic. We need to go pray." And Dominic was a pastor at our church at the time. And I told him, like, "Dad, call Pastor Dominic. I need prayer." I just felt like that was a spiritual attack, like the first one over my life, because there's been many moments like that over the course of the last, 13 years, right? And so he calls Pastor Dominic. We meet up in the Home Depot. We drive right from the doctor's office to Home Depot. He meets us in the parking lot, and he just touches my leg, and he's just praying over it. So it's not like a miracle happened, right?
Yeah.
But I just took that as, like, I need to come too.
Yeah,
I need to have some faith here. So then it sparked that desire in me to actually want to read my Bible and want to listen to worship music and want to believe.
Yeah.
It sparked, right? Like the negative circumstance that could have took all my joy and robbed all my joy away. I flipped it and said, "What can I do and how can I use this moment to become better?"
Yeah.
And I want to pause there for a second, Coach Dan, because I was just having a conversation yesterday with an executive coaching client of mine who's going through a bunch of stuff in his business. And I go, "Look, this is how I think, and this is how I want you to think. And this is how I want the listeners, anybody who's going to watch this to think. Any and every negative circumstance, when you go through adversity, it can be used as a tool for bad or for good. That's it. There's no neutrality. There's no maintenance. Every negative circumstance, every moment of adversity, it can be used for good or for bad. Either way, but it's going to be used for either or. And the way I think about challenges and negative circumstances, whether in life, whether in business, whether in marriage, whatever, is I have to use it for good because the only other alternative is bad. So at that moment, I was like, what can I do now? Not woe is me, not sit here and bawl my eyes out. I have a 24-hour rule. You're allowed to be upset and you're allowed to be happy for 24 hours. After that, back to work. So I used that rule and I was like, let me come to. So the next 6 weeks, man, remember the doctors told me I had 10 to 12 weeks. I'm in a boot. I'm in a boot all the way up to my knee, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay. So I'm sleeping with it on. I'm walking at school. I'm going to football practice. I'm going everything with my boot on. The only time I took it off was to take a shower. That's it. And then I'm right back in it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, supposedly for 10 to 12 weeks. 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I have that boot on, man. I'm still in the gym. Next day, I'm in the gym 5 days a week. I'm on the football field, training up the backup. I'm putting I'm the leader, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything I can to make the most of the situation. And 6 weeks, I go back for my checkup, and they're like, "It's healed. You're good." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You're good. You're
4 weeks ahead of schedule."
Yeah, they're like, "This is crazy. We haven't seen this. What's going on?" I go, "I know what happened. I know what's going on. Thank you. Take the boot off. I need to go get back to work." And so for 2 weeks after that, I take the boot off. My foot's shrunk down half of the size, right? My calf has no muscle on it, right?
Yeah.
So for the next 2 weeks, I'm barely able to walk. I'm barely able to walk, man. Let alone perform on a football field.
Yeah.
Right? And so for 2 weeks after that, I go to physical therapy. I'm in the gym 2-3 times a day. I'm working on all my strength, all my rehab. My brother, blessing my brother's in sports medicine. He studied foot and ankle surgery at Duke, so I'm getting tips from him. Right?
Family.
Yeah. So I'm doing everything I can, and for 2 weeks I did that, and then I played in my first game. I was supposed to miss my whole senior year. I played in my first game, and I remember going to my athletic trainer, and I'm tape it up as much as you can because I can't push off of it. There's no strength. So I remember getting my foot, she would do a three layer tape job. She would tape my foot, my bare foot.
Yeah.
Then I put my socks on, tape my foot with my socks, put my cleat on, and then tape my cleat. so that literally I didn't even need like the tape did all the work for me.
Yeah.
So I remember doing that for 2 games, man. I came back and I played my heart out. Like I did everything I possibly could. And then and I remember the second game I partially tore my labrum. Now I'm playing quarterback, man.
Oh.
So I'm like, coach, like just put me on defense, whatever, right? So anyway, so again, like all these things happen, and then we get to the end of the season. Of course, any recruiting hopes, any recruiting potential goes out the window. And I'm like, man, now what? Like the thing that I like resented and never wanted to happen was me not going to play in college football. I wanted to get out of Connecticut. I wanted to get out of this town. I wanted to get away, far away, and go play football at the highest level. And so I remember the season ending. So now what? Like, am I just going to go to some small town little school here in Connecticut? It's not what I wanted. No knock to anybody who did, but it's not what I wanted to do. It's not why I worked so hard. And so, again, negative circumstance. I tore my labrum, right? So I couldn't throw, but I had a private quarterback coach. And so I went to the quarterback coach and I'm like, dude, I can't throw, so I'm not going to be able to make lessons until this is healed. And he's like, still come. He's like, just come and I could use your help. I'm like, all right, cool. I have nothing else to do. So I'm driving 45 minutes each way, 1 day a week on Wednesday nights to go meet him and train a bunch of quarterbacks. And I'm coaching up other quarterbacks. Now, Coach Dan, you might know what I do now. The listeners might not really know what I do now. But what do I do now? I coach people. So the work of God has been very meticulously on me all while this is going on, with me not even realizing it.
Yeah. Put you in a
so
position.
I break my ankle. What do I got to do? I have to train up the backup quarterback. I tear my labrum. Now what do I have to do? I have to go help this trainer, this coach other people. And learn from him and learn, he's trained and coached Jordan Reed, who played in the league for over a decade, Casey Cochran, who broke a bunch of Connecticut state records, Will Levitz, who now plays for one of the NFL teams, whatever. So I'm learning from like
A players.
Yeah, so I'm learning from like the best of the best of the best in the coaching realm. So I do that for a few weeks. He's like, I'll pay you, whatever. He's like, dude. He's like, so what's your plan? I'm like, I have no idea. He goes, you should go to prep school. You should go to boarding school. I'm like, Coach Meyer, what are you talking about? What the heck is a prep school? What's a boarding school? He's like, you can go do another year of high school. Oh, yeah. Pretty much get it paid for, play another year of football in a better league, go do your SATs all over, because I was like, yeah, definitely do that. SATs over. He's like, go to boarding school. I'm like, what are you talking about? So here I am talking to this guy, and he's telling me all about boarding schools, and I'm like, he's showing me pictures. I'm like, what is this, Hogwarts? Like, you're talking like Hogwarts type stuff? Like, you go to big brick buildings? And that's the only thing that I thought. And he's like, yeah. So I go, let's go. Let's ride. So I start applying to a bunch of schools, visiting a bunch of schools, and I'm like, this is crazy. You're talking, Dane, like you're going to high schools that are $60,000, $70,000 a year to attend. You're talking some of these high schools have better campuses and bigger endowments than Ivy League schools. Yeah. Oh, yeah. High school. And I'm like, what? So I go to all these schools, and I end up getting into a couple. I end up committing to one, and that changed my life forever, man. That changed my life forever. I go to this school, I ball out, I meet a bunch of people. I end up getting a grant to go there. I end up getting into this college, playing 4 years there, winning some championships. Nice. And God had his hand on me. Yeah. But then when I go to college, and I'm on fire, but then when I go to college, again, it all goes the other direction again. But that's kind of the story of like how I came to, and how God started planting his seeds that would then be harvested, in the position that I'm in now. Yeah. So all of that it prepares you. And when you now have the awareness, the spiritual awareness that you have, you look back at those trials and those tribulations, like, man, preparation, right? Like this didn't make sense then, but it does now. And there are so many people, Derek, that look at those moments and go, I would have been this if that didn't happen to me. I would have been that if that didn't happen to me. And they, like you said, they're using it as a crutch or an excuse as to why they didn't propel themselves forward. And versus taking the moment to say, okay, why is this silence being brought to me? Why am I being put on pause? Why am I being asked to slow down? Right? Mm-hmm. What am I not seeing? And I'm super impatient. So when I get sick or ill or anything like that, it's like, I get, and it's like, hold on, right? Stop. The engine's overheating.
I'm not seeing it, somebody else is seeing it, right? Take a breath and I'll slow down. So a lot there, man.
I always say, I always ask, I always tell people, or how I think is why me? So when you're going through something, ask, why me?
Yeah.
Not why me, with that tone of like, of despair and, oh, why me, and whining. Instead of that, why me? Ask yourself, why me?
That's right.
Why me?
So often that was like God saves his greatest challenges for his best students.
Absolutely.
You know? And if you have that mainframe, it's like, okay, not everybody gets this challenge. Right? This one's for me.
Yeah. And you ask why me and why now? Like I want your listeners to use this as a tool. Ask yourself, why me? Why now? And when you're going through these moments, when you go through adversity, use that as a tool. Whether it's mentally or writing it down in your journal, use that as a tool and like literally. Because I'll have like my executive coaching clients, like I'll say, all right, ask yourself, why me? And they're like, okay. I'm like, no, write it down. And I want you to sit for 30 minutes and go write down and answer that. And then why now? Not just think, well, I don't know. No, sit down in reflection for 30 minutes and literally ask yourself, why now? Because I could guarantee that when you slow down and you do that practice, things will start to pop up all in your mind. You just have to give yourself the space and the time and the availability to hear from God, to hear from your subconscious, to listen and then receive. Listen, receive, do. Listen, receive, do.
Yeah, that's amazing. So why me? They go through this process, right? Well, and they just come up with a bunch of reasons. Well, maybe because of this, because of, then the why now, right? That's kind of the association to what's going on now that maybe I need this.
Because timing is everything, and things don't happen by coincidence. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
It could be a big thing. It could be a small thing. It's all things.
Yeah.
Right? But why now? Why now? What's going on? And here's kind of the extension of that, right, Dane? Right. Here's the extension. It might not even be about you.
Most of the time, it's not.
It might not even be about you. It might not even be for you. It might not even be because of you, because we're super selfish people, right? And so we'll go through things and think it's all about us. Oh, I'm going through this, man. It's not even. What if that wasn't even for you? But what if that was to teach you something so you can go help someone else?
Yeah.
And that's why I love coaching so much, because I try to coach my people on. You have to get aligned with your purpose and your calling, your mission. You have to, because it's not about you. It's not about you building a business to make money and do what you love to do.
Yeah.
That's not what we're called to do. We were called to serve. We're called to serve God. We're called to be slaves to his will. And people hate that because we won't want to feel like anybody's in power or in control. Yeah, who are you telling?
Yeah, I know.
Right?
You say
right? Who are you telling? Right.
We know.
But it's not even for you. It's for others. And if everybody in the world stopped thinking so selfishly about themselves and what they want to do and started thinking from the perspective of, hey, this is something I feel called to do, but I'm going to do it for others, this world would be a very different place. Businesses would thrive and flourish if we came from that perspective and mindset.
100%. So how does all this lead into the start of Upward? How do you lead that past, and when does Upward get its first life, and where does that idea come?
Yeah, man. Well, like I said, through college, I was a misfit. So, when I was in high school, I was always looking for that place. I was always looking for that gym or that community or that tribe or those people that I would just feel that thought like me, walk like me, talk like me. And I had a couple buddies, but they weren't really on the same path, right? But I had tons of help throughout the way. Shout out Ralph. I know you won't listen to this, but he was a guy who really helped change my life, right? But I was always looking for that tribe. So when I went to college, I found that tribe. But that tribe I found in college, we were a bunch of misfits. We were man doing and I want to share this because it's important that like you can change at any moment, at any time. And no one's perfect out there, man. We all got skeletons in our closet. We all got crazy stuff that we did that we regret that people don't know about, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that was my college years. Mm-hmm. Those are my college years of being that type of person. But I found a tribe. I found a place where I felt like I fit in.
Yeah.
But it was dark. It was evil. It was bad. So I go through 4 years of college and I just completely lose myself. I turn into a completely different person. I mean, I'm doing all types of bad things, whether it be drugs or whether it be womanizing or whether it be whatever, we were doing it. And I say we because me and my group, we were doing it, and we had a lot of fun, a lot of crazy memories.
Yeah.
But also a couple moments that I shouldn't even be here today. A couple of those moments, whether it was intentional or unintentional, and so I lost my identity. Right, going back to the identity piece, I lost who I was.
Yeah.
And so when I graduated college, I thought I always wanted to go into business. I thought I always wanted to. I used to tell myself, I want to make $1 million by 30. Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to make I want to make $1 million by 30. I want to go into business. I want to wear a suit and tie. I want to drive the cars. I want to have the houses. I want to have the life. So I was chasing that. I was chasing that through college. So I graduate college. I go up in Boston. I start doing commercial real estate, and I'm working in the city, working my corporate job. And about 4 months into living that life, again, I just get a huge wake up call. And I was dating my now wife at the time, but I went on a trip with my buddies, and I was talking to other girls, and I was acting like I was single. We had gotten into a fight. It was a whole stupid thing, college drama crap. And I remember coming back. I remember, and this is crazy. I remember coming back, going to bed like maybe a week after, waking up one morning, and my phone just had like paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. I'm like, who is this? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's her. One of the first messages was like, I know what you did. I'm like, huh? I'm reading all the texts. She had been talking to one of my buddy's girlfriends down there secretly on the side of everything I was doing. And she broke up with me. We were together for years. Like we were pretty close. We had our own issues and drama, but like this was the girl I wanted to marry. And so I remember that happening, and I remember going to work in a complete daze all day, and I'm like, what just happened? And I'm trying to make up all these excuses and say all these things, and I'm like, whatever, who cares, whatever. But I couldn't fight it, man. Now, remember, I told you I was kind of on fire for God before college, lost myself.
Yep.
And then here it is again, right? And so I'm going through this moment, and I'm like, dude, who are you? I remember like 2 weeks after that happened, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I've always had such high standards for myself. I've always had such a high sense of regard for others, doing right by people. I mean, I've always been that friend, always been that person that'll go above and beyond for people. And I lost that. And what happened was, in that moment, instead of me getting like upset that the situation happened or mad that my friend's girl was talking or any of the other crap, I got pissed at myself.
Yeah.
Like, and not in the sense of like, oh, I was mad at myself, because some people will say, and I want your listeners to hear this, like, we're not hard enough on ourselves at certain moments. Mm-hmm. And I'm very hard on myself, but I'm working on giving myself more grace. But there should be moments that you're very hard on yourself, and people aren't hard enough on themselves.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, I was very, 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 there's no other way to say it. I was just very pissed at myself. I was like, dude, how could you? Who are you? What are you doing? Is this who you were meant to be? What would your sons think down the road? Is this who you want to be for your sons? What if your son did this? Because even when I was in college, even when I was a teenager, because, me and my brother lived with my dad and blah, 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 I always imagined having sons and raising them a certain way, different than my dad raised us. But I was like, man, my dream is like to have two boys.
Mm-hmm. 2 boys.
And so even at that time, I'm 22 years old, 23 years old. Yeah. I'm like, dude, you have to change. So I send a message to my group of friends, and this all ties into how Upward was created. I remember texting my group of friends, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm gonna remove myself from this group chat, because it was just all types of talk about just all crazy crap. And I was like, I'm going on this journey, man. I got to clean up my act. I want to do different. I want to do right. And I remember sending that message and leaving the group, and then getting bombarded with texts from these guys talking about like, oh, I'm changed up, I'm this, I'm that, whatever. And I was just like, you guys are never really friends to begin with. Peace. Cut off.
You call them out.
Yeah, and I went on this journey, man, of like just self-discovery and self-reflection and who I really wanted to be and who was I created to be. And this was my life-changing, like, everybody will have a life-defining moment, life-changing moment. This was mine. I remember, I'm praying. I'm kind of like trying to find God. I'm listening to worship music, going to, hopping on the train to work, hopping on the train back from work. I'm living in the city of Boston, like in the heart of the city. And, I'm going on this journey. And I remember coming home one night, walking from the train to my apartment. It was about a 10-minute walk. It's like 7:30 at night. It's snowing out. I can remember seeing, like, I remember the scene vividly. And I remember just walking down the street on the sidewalk with my hands up, just listening to this song, and I'm just bawling my eyes out. And like uncontrollably. And I feel like at that moment, it was like a moment of cleansing. It was like all this dirt and grime and just crap was just flooding out of me.
Yeah.
And so I just have this moment, and I get to my apartment, and I throw all my stuff on the ground. I'm still wearing my suit and everything, and I just get down on my knees, and I just pray. And I said a simple prayer, but I was like, God, if you're real, show me. Like, if you're real, like, I need to see you, man. Like, I'm trying to believe, but, like, I need you. Now, mind you, I'm not saying it like that. I'm like, God, like, you know, I'm bawling my eyes out, right? Uncontrollably. And I say this prayer, and then I wrap up my night, and I just get in bed, and I go to bed. And I remember that night, man, I have a dream, and it's a lucid dream. So I remember being in this room, this all-white room. Okay, it was like an L-shaped room, hallway down, take a right. It was just this, everything was white. And I remember being in that room, and I'm like, what? Looking across the room, and there's this huge, like you look up, this huge demon, angel, right in front of me. All black, huge wings, scary, like scariest thing you could ever encounter in your entire life. And I remember being in bed, and like being like straight in my bed, like shaking uncontrollably, trying to wake up. Like I remember like my eyes moving around, like I could see the silhouette of my room, but I can't wake up.
Yeah.
And I'm shaking, and I'm like, I remember like feeling like I was being choked. And I just remember being in this room and this demon walking towards me. And I'm looking, and I'm trying to wake up, and I just start screaming at the top of my lungs, I rebuke you in Jesus' name. I rebuke you in Jesus' name. I rebuke you in Jesus' name. Just screaming. Because I literally felt, Dan, like I was going to die. Like I physically felt like this is it. That's how much fear and everything was around me. Mm-hmm. And then I remember right when this thing was like 20, 30 feet from me, a Michael's angel comes down, boom, right in front of me. And then I wake up. And then I was like, all right, I'm never saying that prayer ever again. I need to go get saved.
Yeah.
And so I get on the phone. I call.
It was that clear.
Yes, like undeniably. And so I pick up the phone. I call a family friend of mine who was a pastor at our church, and I go, "Hey, Chris, I want to get baptized. I need to get saved." I told him about the dream. He's like, "Yeah, dude, that was a spiritual attack. You were in the spiritual realm." I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, well, I never want to go back. Like, get me saved. So. I remember him, taking me through this like 1 month journey of like certain Bible readings and like things he wanted me to do before getting baptized, because it's a big deal. And so I did that, and then I went to back home and I got baptized, and it was a huge moment. It was awesome. A couple of friends came, and it was great. Now, mind you, all throughout this time, I'm not talking to my wife, right? My now wife at the time, my girlfriend. We're not talking. And it was after getting baptized, I go back to the city, and I'm like, I need to go open a gym. I need to go train people. Because on the side, I was always training people. I was working on the side, training football players. Like I would run football camps at home in the summer when I came home from college and stuff. I wasn't brand new to the field. I had a reputation for what I did for speed training and football training and stuff. And I would write workout programs in my office for all these out of shape 30-year-olds that were getting married and stuff, right? So it wasn't new to me. So, but like it wasn't like a full time, like I thought I could build a career off of it and accomplish that goal one day, being a millionaire. And so I didn't really focus on it. But this moment, it was like God was like, you need to go and do that. That's what you were called to do. So I go back to the city. It's December, right? I go back to the city. I start working with a couple football players at Boston College. One of my friends, Will Harris, plays for the Detroit Lions right now. So I was working with him and a couple people at Boston College. And I was like, dude, like, I feel like I need to be doing this full time. He's like, you should. So I go back to the office in January of 2018. I step into my manager's office and I go, hey, Suzanne, I need to quit. I'm going to go open my own business. And she goes, okay. So, and this was like, again, confirmation, because God will confirm things multiple times, typically 2 times. So the first confirmation was me walking into her office, telling her I wanted to quit to open this business, and her going, yeah, you should. I go, what do you mean? She goes, you weren't, like, this isn't you. She's like, you need to be doing that. I've always known that. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And then she goes, how long do you need? She's like, how? But the crazy thing is, Dan, I never had talked to her about this.
Yeah.
She's like, she knew like I was fit because I'd always be, I'd be the guy in the office eating chicken, rice, and broccoli 2 times a day in my office, smelling up the whole freaking office floor with, it was either turkey burgers, rice and broccoli, or chicken breast, sweet potato, and broccoli. So all I ate.
Yeah.
And I remember like, you know, people being like, yo, are you like on stuff? I'm like, nah, bro, I'm just crushing.
Yeah.
So she always knew I was into it, but not at that level. And that was the first confirmation. So then she was like, how long do you need? I was like, well, it's January. My lease ends in June, so like 5 months. And she goes, okay, just let me know when you need to go. And I was like, this is crazy. Like that stuff. Now, mind you, Dan, this is I'm working for a Fortune 250 company. You know, they get hundreds of applications.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sitting here on a free ride doing my thing. They know I'm quitting. But, you know, it goes back to that kind of like over deliver. You know, I'm crushing the job, so of course they don't want to lose me. Humble brag. But so I go through the motions, and then I remember calling like my dad and my mom and all these people, and them being like, "No, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
you're crazy. You're crazy. Like, no." And I told my dad, I was like, "Well, the reason why I'm telling you, Dad, is because I need to come move back in. Like I'm gonna start this business. I'm not gonna be making any money in the beginning." He's like, "No, you're not." He's like, "No," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So then I keep calling people, waiting to get a yes, and then I call a mentor of mine, of this commercial real estate firm that I interned at, and I called him and I was like, "Hey, Coop," I call him Coop. I'm like, "Coop, I'm going to go do this thing." He goes, "Anything you need, it's yours, man. Do it." I'm like, there's my second confirmation. Someone that I really looked up to, someone that I really really inspired me. And so I made that call. I was like, let's go. And I called another friend of mine. I go, actually I was texting a friend of mine. I was like, yeah, man, this is what I'm going to do, because he had went and started his own like medical device company, whatever. Okay. And he's like, yeah, he goes, if you need a place to stay, come move in at my parents' salon and above my mom's salon. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man, pay like a couple $100 a month, like no sweat, like whatever. Talk to my dad about it. So I was like, all right. God is literally making this undeniable. Like, yeah. I'd be stupid not to do this. Because I talk to entrepreneurs and people I potentially coach, and like I tell people, don't use your faith as a crutch. Don't use like, well, it might not be my season. It's just not the right timing. I just gotta wait for God. Like, what if God's got 3 doors open and you just haven't stepped through them yet? Yeah. Like when you can see it teed up, it's time for you to jump and take action. So I saw that, and so that's what I did, man. And so I moved back down to Connecticut, and I'm like bouncing around some gyms, trying to learn the game. Had some crazy experiences. The gyms that I worked at, they were terrible. And then 2 months in, crazy, Dane, crazy. 2 months into me moving back home. Now, mind you, God told me like he wanted me to open a gym. He didn't call me just to be a trainer. He called me to open a gym. I don't know how that was going to happen or when it was going to happen. Yeah. So I'm 2 months into the game, man. This is 2018. I'm home for 2 months. I'm making like $300 a week. I'm driving all around Connecticut doing training. And I worked at a gym where I was shadowing another friend of mine. And me and him are clicking, and he's teaching me a ton of stuff, right? And then the owner of the gym, randomly out of the blue, comes to us and says, hey, I need to meet with you guys. We're like, okay. So we meet with the owner of the gym. He had opened the gym for 1 year, man. 1 year in. He goes, hey, I'm moving to Germany. You guys are going to run the gym. We're like, no, we're not. Like, what are you talking about? Like, no. Like, because he was loopy. Yeah. Oh. But here's the thing, man. There was 40 athletes training there. There was 2 pro NHL hockey players training there.
Good opportunities.
So and the guy that I was shadowing, he was going to UConn to be a strength and conditioning coach. So he wasn't going to run the gym, and I didn't trust this guy, so I'm not just going to run the business. So then we're sitting there and we're like, dude, we have like a whole nother month, and for these 2 NHL guys, 2 more months. Like, we need to finish the job. And I go, well, when I was at this other gym for 2 weeks, even though the owner was a complete just whatever, I met this guy there that had this space that he wanted us to go open a location in. Let me go see if he's still available. Because the thing is, Dane, again, going back to the theme of adversity and being in negative situations, I had worked at a gym that my younger brother was training at for this guy, and he was a very, very, very bad leader with very bad practices. And even though I didn't learn anything and I had to get out of the situation, there was a meeting that was had with a third party, this investor who had a physical location with weights already in it, turf already in it, collecting dust. And he came to us, me and this other owner, asked us if we wanted to open another location. But again, I'm like, no, I've been here 2 weeks. I'm trying to learn right now.
Yeah.
So fast forward back to this other owner telling us he's moving to Germany. I tell my buddy Anthony, I go, Anthony, let me go see if that facility's still open. This guy I met a couple months back. So I get on the phone, I call him. He's like, yeah, man, I need it. Like, I want this space being used. So then me and my buddy Anthony go and visit this guy. I mean, 3 Sorinex racks, like Ico plates, like all this like crazy, like $65,000, $70,000 of weight equipment, all this crazy stuff in this facility, just
nice.
collecting dust. And I remember having a meeting with him and saying, look, I want to open a gym. I'd love to open a gym here. I don't want any partners. I don't want anything. I just want to use the space and pay you rent. And I need it like as soon as possible because this other gym's shutting down and I need to run sessions here. I'm 23 years old, Dave. Like, who do I think I am, right? I'm 23 years old, getting these stuff moving, making these meetings happen. And he goes, done. He goes, sounds good. And that's how, not Upward started, that's how Bright Athlete Performance started. Because when I first got into the realm, I thought I only wanted to train athletes.
Okay.
And so like we did that for a few years, whatever. And then, we could be here for another hour talking about business stuff. But I had to rebrand because, the business was kind of failing. I'm 25 years old thinking I know everything, right?
Yep.
And then Upward was born, again, in a very, very dark place, negative circumstance. I had to rebrand myself. And that's how Upward Human Performance was born. I hired business coaches. And then, dude, we went from losing money to doing over $50,000 a month in 14 months. I went from a company that was losing money to a company that was doing $600,000.
How'd you do that?
Tripling every year, 3 months after COVID, year over year at 26, 27, and 28 years old.
Nice.
And then like forget about it now, right?
Yeah, well, how did you do that in short? I mean, what changed in going from, I saw a YouTube video, it was like 600K in the hole to, in the hole to 600K profit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had to take that video down because I have to redo it. I'm gonna make it better because I watched it over and I'm like, I could do this better.
Yeah. Perfectionist.
Yeah, right. That's our problem.
Yes.
We all have our stuff.
We do.
Man, again, like identity. Like it all goes back to identity. I started to operate at a very low frequency and a very low level, and it caused me to be a bad leader, bad husband, bad new father. And I thought I was running this successful business, and it's like in business, things can change literally overnight. Mm-hmm. And it did. Like literally in one team meeting, I had 2 coaches that worked for me quit, and I went from like a $25,000 a month gym to a $7,000 a month gym in 1 month. And my overhead and taxes and all that couldn't even cover like the revenue I was making. So
now you're in a hole. How long can you run that?
3 months because all of our savings, the little bit of savings we had and everything was every month I was losing about $300 to $3,500 a month. Losing. Yeah. Like I had to come out of my personal expenditure to pay, and I'm 25, 26 years old, just got business off the ground. My wife, going back to the story of me losing the girl, I get the girl. So just for all your listeners, I end up getting the girl. We've been married now, 2 kids. She got her master's degree, 7 months pregnant, right? So we had a brand new baby. She's a stay-at-home mom, so I'm the sole income source. So I'm going through all this stuff. One, I'm the main income provider, brand new baby, business bleeding money, and I'm on a month-to-month lease. You know how easy it would have been, Dane, since I'm on a month-to-month lease? You know how easy it would have been for me in that moment to say, hey, I need to shut the gym down. I'm losing money. My wife's not working. I need to go back into real estate and go make some money and go get a stable job, and then I'll come back and do it over again. You know how it triggers me, man? You know how many entrepreneurs, you know how many people cop out of their calling? Mm-hmm. Because something is available to them, because something, maybe you're a listener out there right now and you're thinking about this. Don't cop out of your calling. You know how easy it would have been for me I'm on a month-to-month lease, man.
Yeah.
I could have gone to this dude and nothing written, mind you, so I probably should have at a certain point. That's a whole nother. Nothing in writing, month-to-month lease. At any point, I could have called dude and been like, I'm not coming in. I'm closing down the gym. I'm done. And it would have been done. Yeah. And I could have went back into the city, got back in real estate, made $80,000 a year, taking care of my family, and I'd probably be sitting in a cubicle right now, hating my life.
Yep.
Instead of copping out, I rolled up my sleeves, because you asked how I did it. I rolled up my sleeves. I realigned my mindset and my identity to man, you are so much bigger, so much greater, so meant for so much more than running a failing, unsuccessful business. That's not who you were created to be. And so I started, man, on a tear that I still continue to this day. I was waking up 2 o'clock in the morning every single day.
Oh, I love
Mind you, I have a 4 or 5 month old boy at home, so I'm barely sleeping.
Yeah.
Right, and I never had drinking.
Physical gym. You're not doing online at the time.
Yeah, no, I'm in a gym. I'm in a physical location coaching all day, every day. So I remember, talking to my wife, and she's like, "Well, we're not closing down." I go, "All right, well then, like, you got to not see me for the next 4 months."
Yeah, it's a tough conversation.
Like, you got to not see me then. So she goes, "All right, if that's what we got to do." So I go, "All right, well, that's what we got to do."
Yeah.
So I'm waking up 2 o'clock in the morning every single day. I was reading 2 books a week. I was writing systems like a madman. I invested 12, swiped my credit card, invested 12 in a marketing program, in a coaching program that was a complete bait and switch. That was a complete, like it was terrible. I should have sued them, but it's too late now.
Yeah.
It was a terrible program. Even that didn't stop me, because I could have been like, well, like, here it is again. It must just not be the timing. It might just not be the season. Let me listen.
Yeah.
No,
for me,
I don't accept that. If anything, when negative circumstances and adversity hit, and this is how God wired me to be, I get pissed. Like I hate, like, that verbiage, like the Tom Brady's, the MJs, the Mike Tysons, all the greats. We hate losing way more than we like winning.
Oh,
when I win, I'm like, cool, expected, move on.
Yeah.
Not in like a cocky way, but just like I know this is gonna happen. Is it like it's gonna happen? Mm-hmm. But when I lose, it's unexpected, and I'm like, bet game, like, really, you're gonna challenge, compete? Okay, let's go. I was that kid at like 14 years old, man, playing video games, smashing controllers. like we were just those guys, just very hyper competitive, and still how I operate now. And when this adversity was hitting, and I invested this money and lost it, whatever, I was like, bet. Let me go find another program to invest in then. Let me go do my homework. Let me use this as a learning experience. And so I invested another $8,000 in another program.
Yeah. I mean, that the theme is you keep betting on yourself because you have belief.
Keep betting. One's going to hit, baby.
What's
One's
the other
gonna
option?
hit.
You know what I mean?
Right? And what did I say? The other option is not doing it. That's not an option. Yeah. So I went on a tear of personal development. I went on a tear of action, prayer, church, faith, all that, 100%, listening to God, being aligned, but just unrelenting action. And I got us out of the hole, and, man, things just started to just grow and grow and grow, and I hired a guy and hired another guy and hired another guy and hired another guy. And here I am at 28 years old having 4 full-time guys that work for me, all under the age of 25. And we're cranking $35,000, $40,000 a month out of a 2,500 square foot gym, just cranking.
Nice.
And we still. It's in Connecticut. We're in Connecticut.
What part? Berlin.
It's in Milford, Connecticut.
Milford. I know the current gym. The current gym I know is there, but I thought you were talking about the other gym that you were trying to get off the ground. So this was upward. This was all the upward experience.
Yep. That's when I had to rebrand, reshape, and then I started over, man. And success, I always tell people, like, you want to be impatient for action, but be patient for result.
Yeah.
But take very impatient action. Be patient for result, because I'm very impatient. So the way I've had to reframe it in my mind, so that way I'm not just hopping to every new shiny thing out there, is I'm just going to be very, very, very impatient for action. Mm-hmm. But let me wait for the result. Because I hop around. I like to hop around and start new things and tinker and whatever, right?
It's entrepreneur, shiny right out.
Yeah, but just being impatient for action will take people a much further, much quicker than, maybe it's just not my time, and then they sit on their hands and don't do anything and don't take action.
I agree. I have this saying. It's very similar to that, and it's like I said it years ago. I think I heard it from maybe Gary Vee, who had been years ago when I used to consume a lot of his content, but it like hit, and it was like, man, that's a good way to look at things. And his was macro patience, micro urgency. Have macro patience, always know that that's where you're going, but create that every day. Micro urgency. Do it when you can.
Love that, man. Love that.
Yeah. It's just another way of saying what you've been saying. So all this goes, I can see now. So let's lead the listener into how you incorporate your uniqueness into your gym to where you are now, and even maybe sharing to them that unique concept of prayer coaching calls that you've incorporated, which is like
man.
level.
Yeah, man. So upward human performance came from a Bible verse that says, I press on towards the prize for the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. So when I was trying to think of like new names to name my gym, I was like, upward, 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 upward.
It came.
And then that's also how my coaching program now for sports coaches and fitness coaches to scale online, it's Upward Growth Kingdom. It's for that we're pressing on towards the goal for the prize of the upward call, for the call of God, for the heavenly prize. So when I reframed my gym, I thought about how can we create a personal development academy here in my physical location. So that's how we've been able to niche down our gym, because when you walk in the gym and see how we operate and the systems and the experience we have, you're not going to find it anywhere else. Maybe people do it in certain ways. That's fine. They have their own niche. But our niche was, how can we create an experience that's personal development focused, where we help people grow in the big six? What's the big six? Spiritual, emotional, relational, mental, physical, financial. And so I want my gym, my physical location, and it's still growing, it's still evolving. I mean, this is a 20-year game. Like we're grinding every quarter, every year to get better and better and better. I got a new team, and I've let go of people. People have quit, whatever. But what we're trying to create here in our brick and mortar, our four walls, is create an experience where when you join the gym, you're not joining a gym, you're joining a personal development system that's going to evolve you from the inside out. And so, like, when you come in, you're going to get goal sheets. You're going to get achievement boards. You're going to get check-ins. You're going to get newsletters that help you in any and every realm. I have a vision future of hosting seminars, of teaching people business, of teaching people financing, I have a huge vision that this gym is going to be a place where people develop inside and out.
So not just physical.
Oh, no, not at all. Okay, when I was thinking about opening this gym and I was making all those calls, and then one guy said, you do this, go all in, anything is yours, that like anything you need.
Yeah.
Well, that guy is an executive vice president for one of the largest commercial real estate firms in the entire country.
Wow.
That guy invested in our new location last year.
Oh, nice.
Because we had a lease termination and we had to build out a new gym within 6 weeks. So we're here cranking $40,000 a month. I have to leave one location, find a new location. This is almost 2 years ago. This is almost 2 years ago. So mind you, this is a couple years after the whole
COVID
thing that was going around. Okay. Because who knows, saying it might get you banned.
I know. I shouldn't have said it.
We'll cut that. But, so I had to move my gym within 6 weeks. Again, adversity. How can I use this? How can I use this? I made a call. This dude's like, dude, I'll write you a check. How much do you need? We'll get you in a new home. He's a commercial real estate executive. This is 2 years after that thing that happened. Finding space is impossible.
Yeah.
Finding industrial space is impossible. Still is. So I'm connected to a commercial real estate executive who has resources beyond measure, who has attorneys, who has everything that I need, all free.
Wow.
They help me find a space, help me build it out, help negotiate my lease, and we build out a brand new location, Rogue Equipment, top down, beautiful place within 6 weeks. So when we're talking and thinking about like the entrepreneurial journey and how I built this gym, I know it's God destined. I know it was predestined long before than I thought it was a thing, because you can't make this stuff up. So that's how I've grown the gym. But then, because I feel like my mission is always evolving, my gym is good and it's cranking, it's growing, it's building. That's a long-term game. But you and I being very impatient people, and me like wanting to scale and scale fast, I was like, man, God, like I feel like I'm called to mentor coaches, because I've hired dozens of coaches through my gym, young coaches, 23, 24, 25. I have some older coaches too. But all I do all day, every day in our team meetings and the books that I give them to read, everything we do, our systems, is developing them to build their own business, to be entrepreneurs, to evolve, to find their purpose. And I'm like, man, I want to do that. I want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's how my coaching program was born, of helping coaches, sports coaches, fitness coaches, launch, start, scale, grow their business online. So that way, if they do want to open a physical location, they'll have cash flow to build a physical location, and do it in a way where faith is the center of everything. Because I've been in coaching programs where Jesus wasn't the center, and I've always felt out of line. And I've also been in programs that just made me feel a little icky. So I wanted to create a program that's not just about building business, building wealth, building, generational time and financial freedom, which is my goal for my people, but also grow personally and spiritually. Also grow in a way where everything is building together, because there's a lot of people who have built successful businesses, make tons of money, who are miserable, who are still lost, who still feel called to a higher form. So what I do in my program is we pray on coaching calls, we pray for each other, we share devotions. I teach business, I teach principles from the Bible, because the Bible is a book on business. If you really read it for application, God has a lot to say about business and finances, a ton. We just need to use it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I tell people all the time, Jesus was the world's best content creator. Like we talk about content creation, that's in the Bible. You might think like, well, how is that in the Bible? Jesus was out there building a personal brand. Jesus was out there making sure his word was being written. Jesus was out there scaling himself in other content forms, which were his apostles. Jesus was creating content that still lives and breathes today. Yeah. So if you just use his same principles for creating content and building a personal brand, which is niche, being a disruptor, being different, being authentic, all the principles of building content, you can just get all that from Jesus. You want to be a good leader? You can get that from Jesus. You want to learn how to speak and speak with authority? You can learn that from Genesis 1:1. Mm-hmm. Because God created the world by speaking. It says, and God said, and God said, and God said, let there be light, and God said. He could have thought, God could have tweaked. It could have said, and God formed, and God thought, and God, what he could have done anything. But it said, and God said, and God said. So there's a lot of power in speaking. There's a lot so that's what I do in my coaching calls, and really getting people to understand the purpose of why we're doing all of this in the first place, which is for that prize that we have waiting for us in heaven. And if we can keep it central on that, you'll not only grow financially, you not only will grow mentally, emotionally, all that, you'll grow spiritually and find ultimate fulfillment.
So deep, man. That's the truth of it, right? Like I think the key here is the takeaway, Derek. It's like you have to set your vision on an identity, because most of the time when you're down, you've lost an identity, and you've got to get a vision of who do I want to become, and you start acting from that. You were blessed to have Christ introduced at a young age, so that kind of always stayed there, and you knew like, hey, I need to go back to this. You always had a center, so to speak, right? Yeah. Some other people they tie a child or a marriage or a mother or a parent to their why, and that leads them and they grow, right? But you have to have an identity of who you are and who you want to be when you grow up, so to speak. And that when you put a belief behind that and you put a faith behind that, right? Like I think that's where the journey really gets fun. Because the journey is never like this. Like I used to tell people in the stock market, I used to be a broker. Like, let me explain. The stock market doesn't go like this. It goes like this, right? Yep. There's a journey, but over every 10-year period, there's gains, right? But some days the gains are down. So, I mean, there's lots of losses on the table that you're looking at. Some days the chips are up, right? But we're in it for the journey. And what you're doing is so important. And it's one of the reasons I got into it. Not to make it about me, but to make it about you. It's getting people to understand a deeper why, a deeper purpose, and that it starts with putting themselves first and understanding, okay, how do I put the right information? How do I build the right relationships? How do I have the right self-talk? How do I incorporate the right habits to get to where I need to go, right? And that, when you're able to go on a fitness journey that leads into the depths of your company, which is, hey, we're going to talk about you, the human, right? And we're going to work our way outward right there. Now you have longevity. Now you have success, because we're not looking at a short term, oh, I got abs, now we lose the abs, right? It's just those vanity metrics, they fade along with the fad diets. So that's like one of the reasons, man, when I looked at that page, like that's the switch, right? It's a switch of this is permanency. This is part of my being, part of my life. This isn't a fad. I'm not on a diet. I'm not doing a workout program to challenge. This is now my life. And every day I go deeper in these components. And I love how you're very clear on those 6 pillars, right? It gives somebody the vision or the identity that they probably don't have.
Exactly.
Right?
It's powerful, yeah.
It's super powerful. And the name Upward, I mean, come on, man. Everything you're doing is upward, right? You just keep that up. I'm that.
Yeah. And I love it because like it sounds kind of corny, but when I was like starting, I'm like, yeah, I'm like onward and upward, but I never like put that out there publicly.
Yeah.
But like, you know, people that train with us or kids or people that look up to us or whatever will use it themselves to be like onward and upward, onward and upward. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. You know?
That's right. There's an identity to it. Exactly. They get the identity. Exactly. Anything else, man, that you'd want to share with this audience to let them know, like, you know, where they are? Most of the men that are here, these are men that have discipline in their life somewhere, right? They have that kind of higher standard for themselves, and most of them right now have lost that identity to hold that standard in their health and fitness, and that's trickled a lot into other areas, their marriage, their business, their confidence, their attitude. So what's your take on that?
I would just tell everybody, listeners, you guys out there, we're all going to die one day. And I know that sounds a little morbid, but I'm really into Stoic philosophy. We're all going to die one day, okay? Time's fleeting. It's going to go. The time's going to come. Could be next month, next year, 10 years, 100 years. We don't know. But when you get to the end of the rope and you look back on everything that you're doing right now in the past, or you think about the future, what do you want to be able to say at that moment in time? And I would hope that everybody would put themselves there for a moment and feel that, because people try to run from that because it's scary and like, well, I don't want to think about that. You should. So that way, every single day, you can take impatient action, be patient for results, but be able to have peace when that time does come. So think more, do more, be more, love more, receive more, and be all that you can be, because we only got one shot at this deal, so we might as well make the most of it.
All in. No reason to be lukewarm. Where can they find you?
So you guys can find me on Instagram, Coach Derek Ward, Derek. YouTube, same thing, Coach Derek Ward. And yeah, you can look up our gym, Upward HP_Milford. And yeah, also the podcast, The Growth Kingdom with Coach Derek Ward. That's me, man.
All right. Well, Derek, it's been a pleasure. We're gonna end it on the podcast here for everybody. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode.